In the wake of the Lakers' elimination in just 5 games as the number 3 seed to the 6 seed Timberwolves, with LeBron James and yet another playoff flameout, and Luka Doncic, the person who got traded to the team at the trade deadline, looked like one of the dumbest trades ever at the time. A lot of people, including myself, were bashing the crap out of it, bashing Nico Harrison, the GM of the Dallas Mavericks, for giving up generational talent in Luka Doncic to the Lakers for practically not much, and not even talking to any other teams. I know I was a big voice on that one for sure. And of course, Nico's explanation for that was, well, okay, Luka's, he's not in shape. He's not taking his dieting and fitness seriously. He's not taking seriously what it takes to be a champion. And also, defense wins championships, and Luka does not play very much defense. So they won Anthony Davis, who's known for being a very good defender when he's healthy, which is a big part of what why a lot of us were saying, are you kidding me? They basically legislated defense out of the NBA, and okay, so he's still a generational talent. Do you think he's not going to ever get to where he needs to be? Well, in the wake of this series and the way Luka played, suddenly Nico looks not quite so bad, to the point where some people are saying, do we let Nico off the hook for this? Do we say this was a good trade, that he made a good decision in getting rid of Luka, and that this was, that we need to, praise him? I'm not going to go that far. Now, obviously, he does look a lot better than he looked at the time. As it turns out, Luka was clearly not in the shape that he needed to be. Now, does this let LeBron James off the hook? No. Somebody who's as supposedly great as he is, who's still putting up amazing seasons even at age 40, if you can put up those seasons in the regular season, you shouldn't flame out in the playoffs like that when you have somebody like Luka who can provide you a lot of scoring help, whether he's in shape, out of shape, playing defense or not. If you're the person that LeBron and his people at Clutch Sports want you to think he is, having Luka there and under any condition should have been more than enough for him to at least get past the first round, at least win more than one game in a first round series as the 3 seed going against the 6 seed. So LeBron does not get off the hook. He's still somebody that, in the grand scheme of things, 4 championships in 22 years for somebody with his level of athletic ability and basketball greatness, should have done more. And that hurts him on the all-time rankings, because he just, unless he has an absolutely stacked team, he can only get a few championships out of it, a lot less than somebody of his caliber should. But that's about him. But like I said, I don't want to completely let Nico off the hook, because one of the things I said in my videos at the time was they only talked to the Lakers and looked into getting Anthony Davis and a few other picks and players and kind of, very, very interchangeable parts back. And I said that was a bad idea, and I stand by that one. Maybe getting rid of Luka wasn't the worst idea in the world, but Luka has a lot of value, especially now. He's 25 years old. He's coming off of like 4 or 5 straight All-NBA first teams. He's not going to make it this year. He didn't play enough games. The NBA had to put that rule in because, good Lord, these players will just never play any games, hardly, or only play half of them if you let them. And if you take away their incentive to get any awards, that's the only way they're going to get them to play at least 65 games a year, which is pathetic. But that's another story for another day. So, Luka's won the scoring championship quite a few times, or maybe one. I don't remember exactly how many, but he's basically a scoring machine. He's averaging like 30 points a game for his career, right there with Michael Jordan. Obviously, he doesn't have anything else with Michael Jordan, but he does have the scoring ability, apparently, in this watered-down defensive era. And even by this watered-down defensive era, he does not play much defense at all. So it's looking like, it's not the worst thing in the world that Nico gave up Luka, but you got to get more in return than he got. I mean, goodness gracious, only talking to one team, getting Anthony Davis in return. One of the things as a GM, when you make a trade, you have to ask yourself, did you make your team better? And I don't know that he did. I mean, obviously, it looks like their ceiling is limited with Luka, because it looks like he's just not going to take his conditioning seriously after getting thrown off the only team that he knew, the team he wanted to spend his whole career with. These European guys are big on, staying with their teams for a long, long time, like their whole careers. Dirk did it with Dallas, and, Giannis has been on Milwaukee his whole career. Nikola Jokic been on Denver his whole career. And that's a big deal to these guys to get thrown off and being told it's because he doesn't play defense and doesn't take his conditioning seriously. You'd think Luka would take that as a chance to get in the best shape imaginable and go out there and just kind of shove it up everyone's rear end, but he didn't do that. So I guess the answer I'm coming to is, you got to let him off the hook some, but not all the way. It's not, we don't owe him really an apology, so to speak. It's not like, wow, we were wrong. We were wrong about something. There's some things he was right about that we did not want to acknowledge, that, getting rid of Luka was not the worst idea. And I have to admit that I was wrong on that. And I do have to admit to Nico, I doubt hardly anybody watches these videos, but, but if he did, I would have to say, yeah, you were right on that one. I was not right to call you out on that for calling it. I called him out for calling Luka out on his conditioning and defense, and I mean they had no rim protectors, and like I said, to have a Game 5 where Rudy Gobert, like I said, scores 27 points and gets 24 rebounds. Like I said, that's a mid-60s Wilt Chamberlain stat line. I mean, obviously, usually Wilt would score more points, but in the playoffs, when he's going up against somebody like Bill Russell, it usually, pull the scoring average down some, but he'd still score a pretty good amount of points. You'd usually have a bunch of 20-20 games, so at the very least, if not 30 or 20 and 40-20. But that's, I mean, for the Lakers to, and a lot of that's on J.J. Redick, too. Again, you have to, if the Lakers bring him back for another year, they're just going to show they have no interest in winning. All they're interested in is keeping LeBron James as happy as possible. They drafted his son, which, I mean, I don't want to knock the kid, but, I mean, he's not NBA ready, and LeBron should know that. He just put his son in a position to be clowned, which is never a good thing. As a parent, that's the last thing you want for your kids, I would think, but, they brought him in. They brought his wine-sipping podcast buddy, J.J. Redick, in there, who's arrogant as crap. If he was just half as smart as he thinks he is, he would be the greatest coach ever, the smartest coach ever, the greatest basketball mind on the planet. But that's only if he was half as smart as he thinks he is, and he's not. He's one of those people I would love to buy him for what he's worth and then sell him for what he thinks he's worth. That's what you call making a big return on your investment. And I'm not even an investment guru, and I can tell you that. So he owes, I mean, you have to give a lot of blame to a lot of people in this situation. JJ, of course, LeBron, as usual. If you're going to be that guy that he's always claiming to be, you've got to, be able to have somebody like Luka, even though he's a lot more limited than what I think we realized. Still, you get his scoring prowess out there. I mean, you should not be losing the first round in 5 games as the 3 seed against the 6 seed. This is the same Timberwolves team that last year Luka lit up with Dallas. He didn't play defense in that series, and he wasn't in much better shape in that series, but, he had the team around him. Kyrie did his part and was a huge part of them beating this Minnesota team in 5 games in the Western Conference Finals last year. And Kyrie was also a huge reason the Cleveland Cavaliers won that 2016 championship that is the biggest feather in LeBron James's cap as far as his legacy goes, but you got to give Kyrie a ton of credit. I mean, he did a lot more for LeBron than Pippen ever did for Jordan. And like I said, Pippen is great, regardless of his clownish comments and quotes about Jordan. Pippen was great for sure, but he did it for a long, long time too. But Kyrie at his best is better than Pippen ever was. So to Nico Harrison, hopefully Dallas can get rid of the fire Nico chance, but at the same time, he does still need to have his feet held to the fire, because they could have got a lot more for Luka. Dallas, I don't think, is a whole lot better off now. In fact, I think they're worse off. I don't think they got back in return enough to justify losing Luka and what Luka can do. Obviously, I don't think they're going to win a championship with him as your centerpiece, but, you got to get some draft picks, get some high draft picks, and, get a lot of good people in return that you can build around a solid player and, maybe convince one of these free agents one year to come over there and then start building a champion. So yeah, Nico is somewhat off the hook. He's off the giant hook he was onto a much smaller hook, in my view. So that's my take on that. Tell me, you guys, what do you think? Am I giving him too much credit? Am I being too hard on him, on Nico? Like I said, tell me what you think. I'd love to interact with you guys. So take care and thank you.